They're the secrets of ancient Egypt, which for thousands of years lay submerged beneath the Mediterranean. The treasures belong to two sunken cities which were thought to be the stuff of myth. Now the artefacts dredged up from the ruins go on show for the first time at the British Museum.
How can an event of this magnitude occur without anyone having ever documented it? From the appearance of an entire army of terracotta people to the sudden disappearance of an entire civilization, there's a lot that went down in a world before phones that has escaped documentation. Now, scientists want answers. Join us as we reveal the 30 unsolved mysteries of the ancient world that puzzle scientists to this day. Number 1. Nazca Lines.
For an archaeologist, this is a great challenge because it's an enigma to resolve.
It seems an ancient civilization has left an indelible mark on the coastal plains of Peru. These weren't towering structures or intricate carvings on stone. They were massive drawings etched into the earth itself. These mysterious creations, now known as the Nazca Lines, lay hidden for centuries until the advent of air travel in the 1930s. Could you imagine the shock of the first person who went flying over the arid landscape and suddenly spotted a giant spider, a hummingbird, and even a monkey drawn on the ground below? These geoglyphs, over 1,000 of them, range from simple, miles-long lines to complex geometric shapes and intricate figures of animals and plants. There's even a peculiar humanoid figure nicknamed the astronaut, adding to the mystique. And the discoveries haven't stopped. Just a couple of years ago, in 2022, researchers found another 168 geoglyphs. Yet, despite all we've found, the true purpose behind these colossal drawings remains elusive. Number 2. Thonis Heracleion. Centuries before Alexandria even existed, Thonis Heracleion was a thriving port city on the Mediterranean. They say heroes like Heracles and Helen of Troy once walked its streets until disaster struck. Sometime in the 2nd century BC, the city's foundation suddenly crumbled. Thonis Heracleion vanished beneath the waves, lost and forgotten for over 2 millennia. Fast forward to the early 2000s, and marine archaeologists stumbled upon this lost world. Since then, it's been a treasure trove of discoveries. Massive statues, crumbling temples, even animal sarcophagi and ancient fruit baskets. It's like opening a window into a long-lost civilization. Number 3. Hypogeum of Hal Saflieni.
Hypogeum, that has been inscribed in the World Heritage List since 1980, is best known as a Neolithic cemetery contemporary to the megalithic temples.
The Hypogeum of Hal Saflieni, believed to be the world's first underground tomb, served as a burial site from roughly 4000 to 2500 BCE, housing the remains of over 7,000 individuals. Carved out of limestone, using Neolithic-era flint tools, this sprawling subterranean complex is a marvel of ancient engineering, featuring a maze of chambers, halls, and passageways spread across 3 distinct levels. Each level was constructed over centuries between 3600 and 2400 BCE. Among the most puzzling discoveries in the Hypogeum are skulls with unusual elongated shapes, raising questions about the species of people buried there. Even more intriguing is the Oracle Chamber, a room with intricate paintings and peculiar acoustics. Archaeologists don't know what to say. Number 4. Plain of Jars. Imagine hiking through the rugged hills of northern Laos and suddenly stumbling upon a field littered with colossal stone jars. Some stand almost as tall as a basketball player, their surfaces withered with time. These aren't your average garden pots. They're Iron Age relics, often weighing several tons. Local lore speaks of giants using these massive vessels as wine glasses, but archaeologists suggest these are funerary urns. Recent studies, however, reveals some jars predate any nearby human remains. But diving into this mystery is a huge challenge. Many jars are nestled in areas still scarred by the Vietnam War, littered with unexploded bombs, and so this case is a super dangerous one to try and solve. Number 5. The Moai of Easter Island. Easter Island, or Rapa Nui as the locals call it, is famous for those massive stone statues, the Moai. They've been staring out at the ocean for centuries, and how they got there is pretty mind-blowing. But what were they for? A new study suggests the ancient Rapa Nui people didn't just carve these nearly 1,000 statues for kicks. The ruling class believed they could somehow boost the island's fertility and ensure a good harvest. Basically, they thought the Moai were key to keeping everyone fed. It's a fascinating idea, and it sheds some light on why the Rapa Nui went to such incredible lengths to create these iconic figures. They weren't just impressive works of art, they were symbols of survival. Number 6. Menhir Standing Stones. Menhir, or standing stones, are tall, upright stones found worldwide, with a concentration in Ireland, Great Britain, Brittany, and France. These stones are remnants of ancient cultures, with many still standing in their original formations: circles, henges, horseshoes, or ovals. Estimates suggest 50,000 remain in Ireland, Great Britain and Brittany, with an additional 1 to 200 in France. These stones range from 10 to 30 feet tall and are typically squared and uneven with tapered tops. Research indicates many were erected 6,000 to 7,000 years ago. Some feature carvings of animals, objects, and Celtic knots. Their purpose and connection to each other remains debated. Sacred druid sites, territorial markers, or calendars are among the possibilities. Number 7. Sacsayhuaman. Just outside Cuzco, Peru, you'll find the impressive ruins of Sacsayhuaman, a fortress built by the Incas in the 1400s. Like Machu Picchu, it's mind-blowing how they managed to move and fit together massive stones, some weighing over 125 tons, using only basic tools. Even though the Spanish later took apart a lot of it, Sacsayhuaman is still standing strong today, having survived centuries of wear and tear, though offering few clues about its origins. Number 8. Cleopatra's Tomb. By the looks of the modern city of Alexandria in Egypt, you would never be able to tell what rich history has gone into the construction of this wonder. Would you believe this is the kingdom Cleopatra put together? Cleopatra had a dramatic life, entwined with the likes of Julius Caesar and Mark Antony, and it ended in her tragically taking her own life in 30 BC. But even after all these centuries, the location of her tomb, where she was supposedly laid to rest alongside Antony, remains unknown. Some scholars believe it was in Alexandria and was later swept away by the sea. Others suspect it's hidden somewhere in the Nile Delta, perhaps within a temple dedicated to Isis and Osiris, deities Cleopatra and Antony closely identified with. Cleopatra's lost tomb isn't the only one that continues to intrigue us. The final resting places of other legendary figures like Alexander the Great and Genghis Khan are also shrouded in mystery. Number 9. Paracas Candelabra. Not too far from the famous Nazca lines, carved into a hillside overlooking Peru's Pisco Bay, is another massive mystery. The Paracas Candelabra. This giant geoglyph stretches a whopping 600 feet. But unlike the Nazca lines, no one knows its age or purpose. Pottery found nearby dates back to around 200 BC, giving us a rough idea of when people were in the area, but the candelabra itself could be much older. As for why it was created, theories abound. Some say it was a beacon for sailors. Number 10. Voynich Manuscript. Back in 1912, a rare book dealer named Wilfrid Voynich got his hands on a manuscript that's been causing headaches ever since. He said it came from an old castle somewhere in southern Europe, but the real mystery is what's inside. It's written in a language no one's ever seen before, filled with bizarre pictures of made-up plants and naked ladies. Even the FBI couldn't crack the code. Over the years, people have claimed to have figured it out, but their theories always get shot down. Number 11. Yonaguni Monument. Off the coast of Yonaguni Island in Japan, there's a massive underwater rock formation that looks like a step pyramid, stretching at least 165 feet long and 65 feet wide. Ever since its discovery in the 1980s, it's been dubbed the Yonaguni Monument, also known as the Atlantis of Japan. Some believe the pyramids, with their striking resemblance to those found in Mexico and Central America, are man-made, possibly remnants of an ancient civilization. Others believe the monument is just a quirky, natural formation shaped by the forces of nature. Do you have any theories? Number 12. Stonehenge. Stonehenge has been puzzling archaeologists for decades. We know construction started around 5,000 years ago, way before the Bronze Age even hit England. And after all this time, experts mostly agree it was used for burials, and they've even figured out where those massive stones came from. But that's where the easy answers stop. The bigger questions still hang in the air. Was it a religious center, a place for ceremonies, an astronomical observatory, and most importantly, how did they erect that thing? Number 13. The Stone Spheres of Costa Rica. Deep in the Costa Rican rainforest lies a place known locally as Las Bolas, or the Balls. It's a cluster of 4 sites where ancient people left behind something truly bizarre: hundreds of perfectly round stone spheres scattered across the jungle floor. Archaeologists think these stone balls were made by a civilization that lived in the area between 500 BC and 1500 AD. So far, we've found about 300 of them. What's so strange about them? Well, first off, they're almost perfectly spherical. It's a mystery how these ancient people managed to carve such precise shapes from hard stone with the tools they had back then. Second, they come in all sizes. Some are small enough to hold in your hand, while others are massive, weighing up to 15 tons. For centuries, these stones were buried and forgotten, but in recent decades, they've started to resurface. Now, archaeologists are working hard to protect the site, but they still haven't figured out what these stones were for. Number 14. The Vanished Colonists at Roanoke. It's 1587, and John White sails into Roanoke Island, which is present-day North Carolina, with a group of 120 hopeful settlers. A few months later, he heads back to England to gather supplies, expecting to return to a thriving colony. But 3 years later, when he finally makes it back, everyone is gone. The only trace they left behind? The cryptic word CROATOAN carved into a fence post and CRO on a nearby tree. White figured they'd gone to Croatoan Island, but a storm prevented him from checking it out, and he never managed to raise the funds for another search. Some historical records suggest a local chief, Powhatan, took the lives of some of the colonists, but there's no physical evidence to support this. Perhaps they simply succumbed to disease or starvation. Whatever happened, the fate of those Roanoke colonists remains one of America's biggest unsolved mysteries. Number 15. Göbekli Tepe. In southeastern Turkey lies Göbekli Tepe, a fascinating archaeological site that upends our understanding of early human history. Dating back to around 9600 BCE, it's a complex of circular enclosures filled with massive T-shaped limestone pillars, some reaching almost 20 feet high. Was it a temple, a ceremonial center, or maybe a place for social gatherings. We don't have a definitive answer yet, but one thing's for sure. Göbekli Tepe challenges our traditional ideas about how complex societies formed. It existed before agriculture or even the first cities, suggesting that religion and communal activities played a significant role in shaping early human societies. These people weren't just focused on survival, they were driven to create something truly remarkable. Number 16, the scaling of Mount Everest in 1924. Edmund Hillary and Tenzing Norgay made history in 1953 as the first confirmed people to conquer Mount Everest. But there's a lingering question. Were they really the first? Back in 1924, British climbers Andrew Irvine and George Mallory tragically lost their lives on Everest. Ever since, people have wondered if they might have actually reached the summit before their fateful descent. In 1999, climber Conrad Anker found Mallory's body high up the mountain, but Irvine and their camera remain missing. It's a sad reality that we may never know for sure if these brave men achieved their goal before tragedy struck. Number 17. The Mary Celeste. On the 5th of December, 1872, the British ship Dei Gratia stumbled upon a ghost ship, the Mary Celeste, adrift and deserted in the middle of the Atlantic. The lifeboat was gone, but the ship itself was in good shape, with no sign of a struggle. The 10 people on board had simply vanished. What happened to them? It's a question that's been haunting us ever since. The truth is, we'll probably never know for sure. Number 18. The birth of Jesus Christ. Though most Christians today mark 25th December as Jesus' birthday, he wasn't actually born on that day. It seems the date might have been chosen because it's close to Saturnalia, a Roman festival honoring the god Saturn. Another idea is that early Christians picked 25th of December because it's 9 months after the date they thought Jesus was conceived. The truth is, early Christians could never agree on an exact date, and even today, many Orthodox Christians celebrate his birthday on 6th or 7th January. So, it looks like we'll probably never know the actual date Jesus was born. Even the exact year is unclear, though most scholars think it was around 4 BC. Number 19. The Great Sphinx of Giza. The Great Sphinx of Giza, a massive limestone statue blending the body of a lion with a human head, is instantly recognizable. It's been standing guard over the pyramids for millennia, built around 2500 BCE. But its real purpose and origins are still debated. Some think it's a guardian for the pyramids, while others believe it has deeper astronomical or religious meaning. Even the identity of the human face, often thought to be Pharaoh Khafra, isn't certain. Plus, the weathering on the Sphinx hints it could be even older than we think, adding to the mystery surrounding this ancient marvel. Number 20. The Bones of Peking Man. The story of Peking Man is a bit of a roller coaster. Peking Man is a subspecies of Homo erectus, which inhabited the Zhoukoudian cave site in modern northern China during the Chibanian. The first fossil, a tooth, was discovered in 1921, and it was a full-fledged treasure hunt from there. When Japan invaded China in 1937, things got messy. They tried to ship all the fossils found so far to the US for safekeeping, right before Pearl Harbor. But that plan fell apart, and the fossils somehow disappeared. Where are they now? It's anyone's guess. Some think they sank with a ship, while others believe they're buried somewhere in China. The chances of finding them seem pretty slim, but there's still hope. Recent excavations near the original cave have turned up new tools linked to Peking Man, including a fully preserved skull, so there are chances we may make up for everything lost. Number 21. The Sumerian King List. The Sumerian King List, an ancient text written in cuneiform, is like a history book, probably adulterated with a bunch of tall tales. It lists the rulers of Sumer, an early civilization in Mesopotamia, but bizarrely throws in some mythical figures with reigns lasting tens of thousands of years. This mix of real history and legend has scholars scratching their heads. Some say it's a legitimate record of Sumerian kings, while others think it's more like a storybook or a religious text. There's even a more out-there theory that it hints at the existence of lost civilizations. Number 22. Alexander the Great's burial site. You'll see all sorts of fake reports claiming to solve this mystery. We know that Alexander the Great was a force of nature. By the time he was 32, he'd conquered a massive chunk of Asia, creating the biggest empire the ancient world had ever seen. But in 323 BC, he suddenly passed away. Historical records tell us he passed in Babylon, and his body was brought to Egypt. Legend has it that while a fancy tomb was being built for him in Alexandria, his remains were kept in the city of Memphis. But here's the mystery. Nobody knows where that famous tomb is today. Number 23. King Arthur. King Arthur, Camelot, Merlin the Wizard. These names have echoed through the centuries, inspiring countless stories and legends. But was there really ever a King Arthur? There are places in Britain that people link to Arthur, like Tintagel Castle, said to be his home. But archaeologists digging there haven't found anything to prove he actually lived there, or even existed at all. The earliest tales we have date back to the 9th century, and they're not exactly full of magic and chivalry. They speak of a leader, maybe not even a king, who fought some battles against the Saxons. Even those stories are a bit unreliable. Number 24. The Terracotta Army. Imagine stumbling upon an army of thousands, not made of flesh and blood, but of terracotta. That's the awe-inspiring Terracotta Army discovered in 1974 near the tomb of China's first emperor, Qin Shi Huang. These life-size statues, dating back to around 210 BCE, were meant to protect the emperor in the afterlife. There are over 8,000 of them. Soldiers, horses, chariots, all meticulously crafted with unique faces and incredibly detailed armor and weapons. We still don't know who the artists were or exactly how they managed to create such lifelike figures. And the kilns where they fired the terracotta, still a mystery. Number 25. Jack the Ripper. Jack the Ripper's reign of terror in 1888. London is the stuff of nightmares. He brutally unalived at least 5 women, leaving their bodies mutilated. Adding to the horror, letters claiming to be from the Ripper himself taunted the police. It's from these letters that the infamous name Jack the Ripper was born. Despite countless investigations, the Ripper was never caught, and over the years, dozens of suspects have been put forward. In 2012, a book even suggested that the culprit might have been a woman named Lizzie Williams. It seems the true identity of Jack the Ripper will forever remain history's most infamous unsolved case. Number 26. The Longyu Grottos. Hidden away in China's Zhejiang province lies a mind-boggling network of 24 man-made caverns. The Longyu Grottos. These aren't your average caves. They're massive, intricately carved spaces that date back at least 2,000 years. Some folks think they were just quarries, but the high ceilings, elaborate carvings, sturdy pillars, and connecting tunnels suggest something more was going on. The biggest of these grottos is huge, spanning around 11,000 square feet. It makes you wonder how Onyi, the Indus Valley civilization thrived for centuries before mysteriously vanishing around 3,600 years ago. Despite extensive research, we still know surprisingly little about these people. Their language, their social structures, Even their everyday tools remain enigmatic. Recent findings suggest that instead of a single catastrophic drought, the Indus people endured multiple dry spells lasting decades each. These prolonged droughts disrupted their water supply and made agriculture unpredictable, forcing them to adapt. Civilization thrived for centuries before mysteriously vanishing around 3,600 years ago. Despite extensive research, we still know surprisingly little about these people. Their language, their social structures, even their everyday tools remain enigmatic. Recent findings suggest that instead of a single, catastrophic drought, the Indus people endured multiple dry spells lasting decades each. These prolonged droughts disrupted their water supply and made agriculture unpredictable, forcing them to adapt. The Indus Valley civilization thrived for centuries before mysteriously vanishing around 3,600 years ago. The Hellenican Pyramid. If you think pyramids are synonymous with Egypt, think again. Turns out Greece has its fair share of pyramids too. Nestled in the Argolid region, these ancient structures are known as the Pyramids of Argolis, the most interesting of which is the Pyramid of Hellinikon. Archaeologists can't agree on when it was built because different parts seem to date back to different time periods. To top it all off, ancient texts don't even mention the Hellinikon pyramid. It's like it just popped up out of nowhere. Judaculla Rock. Deep in the mountains of western North Carolina, the Cherokee people used to tell tales of Judaculla, a giant who roamed the rugged landscape with ease, leaping from peak to peak. Legend has it that when he needed a quick foothold, he'd grab onto boulders, leaving behind the imprint of his seven-fingered hand. One such boulder, known as Judaculla Rock, is still there today, a massive stone outcropping with what looks like giant fingerprints etched into its surface. Whether there really was a giant is anyone's guess, but the eternal fingerprints might not be so eternal after all. Old photos show them much more clearly than they are now. Time and weather have taken their toll on the soft soapstone. Locals claim there are two other stones in the area with Judaculla's handprints, but no one's found them yet. Could they be just another part of the legend? So which of these mysteries is going to keep you awake tonight? Keep you awake tonight. Keep you awake tonight. Keep you awake tonight.